Tonight, we'd like to welcome to the show sports talk personality, broadcaster extraordinaire, and also a fellow Florida State alumnus, Forrest Conoly. Welcome to the show, my man.
Thank you guys for having me. Looking forward to chopping it up with you tonight.
All right, Big Fo, I got a bone to pick with you first before we get started. Your Twitter profile, it talks about how you blocked for the greatest dual-threat quarterback of all time, but not one mention of yours truly. Can I get some love on that Twitter profile?
Well, I'm going to modify that a little bit. I'm going to put in DK, who went 28 of 38 in that year that I blocked for Charlie Ward, and he threw for 341 yards and 5 touchdowns against Maryland. So I got you covered, DK.
There we go. That's more like it. That's more like it.
He went deep into the cerebellum for those stats. That was strong. He's got love for you. Listen, Forrest, real quick, I just got to talk about this nickname, the big controversy. Now, from the looks of you, I get where the big part is coming from, but what is so controversial? Who gave you this nickname?
Well, I'll say the things that nobody else will say. You know, I will talk about people. Just break them down a little bit. I never disrespect an athlete, but I'll tell you when I'm disappointed in you. And right now, I'm disappointed in a couple of people. So I'm looking forward to talking about them tonight.
Oh, well, perfect. That's perfect timing because I know you're dying to talk about that NC State matchup with Florida State, the huge upset by the Wolfpack. What did you take away from that game on Saturday night?
Well, you know, after the ball game, I was disappointed first and foremost in Coach Fisher, what he did not do, which was adjustments. We saw Thompson, how well he ran the football, but you also saw a tired young man out there, and you've got some quality backs in Pryor and Wilder and Freeman, and we did not use those guys. And I think there was a lack of adjustment on both of those coaches as far as Coach Fisher and Coach Stoops. You've got the defense giving up short crossing routes the entire ball game. You've got Glenn and a 6'6" quarterback. We're not getting pressure on him. You don't blitz him. You give him all the time in the world. So adjustments was the big deal for me. And when Coach Fisher, after the game, he talked about some of the things that he didn't do. What I did not like was yesterday reading his comments and him going back and saying that it was poor execution and he made all of the right calls. Coach Fisher, get your Michael Jackson greatest hits CD out. Listen to the song Man in the Mirror because you made the errors and you let your team down. And I think you need to be a little bit more accountable as opposed to putting it on those players.
Well, yeah, clearly. I mean, I wanted to talk to you about that. If you're disappointed in his coaching on the field, obviously the way that he approached taking that loss after the game has to be equally, if not more disappointing. Do you feel like this is something forgivable or is it time for Jimbo to go?
Well, I'm not going to say it's time for Jimbo to go, but he's got to tighten up, and he's got to tighten up fast. They have to win the rest of their ball games. One of the key things in being a championship ball club is having depth. And for the first time in a long time, Florida State got the type of depth that we had, DK, when we played. But he didn't use it. What's the use in having depth if you're not going to use it? And I don't know if being the head coach and the offensive coordinator is going to continue to be suitable for him. That's a big question, I think, moving forward. They've got the rest of their season set up for them to win every ball game, but don't think Dabo Swinney and Clemson aren't sitting back in the cut hoping that FSU slips up again.
All right, let's look at specifics. Moving forward, what do they have to do better? What kind of adjustments do you think they'll have to make against Boston College and just basically win out the rest of the season?
First and foremost, you've got to spread the ball around. Use Wilder. He is your power back. He's a wild guy coming out of the backfield. Let's get Freeman more involved in the offense. He was the big key last year. I haven't seen him any this year. Let's get away from running this option. You want to protect DJ. You saw EJ get hurt last season, and that hurt the team a little bit. Also, let's use the screen pass. You've got a lot of athletes. Get them in open space. Let them do what they do best, and let's make plays. Defensively, I think you have to platoon more guys in there. You saw Tank Carradine, you saw Bjorn Warner get worn out there. You've got Mario Edwards, you've got some other superstars out there on that defense. Get those guys, use your depth. Don't allow your players to get gassed. If they do that, they can win the rest of their ball games very easily, guys.
Well, Florida State wasn't the only upset from last weekend. With everything that happened and all the shakeups, do you think there's a team out there that's going to be able to challenge the Crimson Tide this season?
South Carolina, and I tell you what, Hill and Clowney, those defensive ends, are mean and vicious. Clowney, we know who he is. We know what he's capable of. 6'5", 260 pounds, a whole beast. And then you take Taylor. This young man is 6'8". So when you try to throw the screen passes, throw the short passes, both of those guys can block the balls. They jump over guys trying to cut them. And you saw on special teams what they're able to do. So I like this South Carolina ball club. And if they're able to get through this 3-game stretch of playing Georgia, next they go to LSU, then they go to Florida, they, to me, are the team that can shut down that Alabama ball club.
Oh, Ollie's got he's got all his South Carolina gear. He is on that bandwagon with you. Big Foe, how about the rest of the country? Looking at the big picture, is there anyone, let's say South Carolina does win that SEC, they're able to knock off Alabama. Can anybody else in the country knock off the SEC from that perch, or are they going to make it 7 in a row?
I think Florida State has the ability to do it, but the coaching has to be more consistent. I'm not a believer in Oregon. I'm not a believer in those Pac-10 teams. They're not tough. And you know when you play Southern football like they played down here in the Southeastern Conference, like Florida State has played at times, you cannot substitute for the speed and the strength. And that is what I think is the difference between an Alabama, between a South Carolina, between a Florida State when the coaching is good and an
There's my man, Forrest Conoly, a.k.a. The Big Controversy. You see why he's dropping the knowledge on us. Thanks for coming on, Big Foe.